My name is Alexia, and I'm one of the Arctic Europe Tourism Cluster project managers from the Norwegian side. On behalf of the entire team, I wanted to welcome you to today's webinar. And for those of you that don't know, and for those of you joining us later, this session is part of our product development work package in AETC. And after wrapping up the first round of online workshops, we thought it was time to dig a little deeper, if you allow me the pun, into a topic many of you have shown great interest in and really go back into our roots. Today, we'll explore how nature, history, and memory can help us bring out the true soul of place. But luckily, you're not here to hear from me today. We have a good lineup. With us today, we have Arctic Factory, our product development partner. We have Samuel Ahola helping us from the technical side. We have Julius leading today's session. And we also have Niklas from Swedish Lapland with a keynote that I'm really looking forward to listening to myself. Along, we also have 3 great panelists, and each of them, after the keynote, will share their own unique perspectives from across our regions. And with that, I don't want to steal more time. Julius, I will leave the floor to you. And once again, welcome everybody.
Thank you, Alexia, and a very good morning. My name is Julius Ufersagden. I'm from Arctic Factory, and I have pleasure to host this morning session today with you. We will have a 2-part journey to reconnect it, what truly makes your company and your destination unique. Today, we will have a part 1, rediscovering the soul of place. We will have a keynote and panel discussion, and we will continue our journey together on January. Part 2, reframing the soul of brand. So we will have these 2 sessions together with you, and let's start. Today, like said, the theme is the soul of place, exploring how the nature, history, and memory shape authentic Arctic experiences. So basically, what does it mean? The place. What does it mean that we know the history, we know the cultural background, we know the heritage, we know the people, how we can use those, how we need to use those, how we want to use those in our tourism operations and businesses. Today, like said, we will have a keynote, and Niklas will start in a minute, and he will talk about rediscovering the soul of place. And after that, we will have a panel discussion, and we will have 3 amazing guests, professionals from Norway, Sweden, and Finland, talking with us about the soul of place in the Arctic tourism. And we will hope that you will enjoy the discussion, but you will take the part of discussion also. But that's the agenda for the day, and let's go forward. Niklas, the stage is yours. Welcome and very good morning, and go ahead.
Thank you so much, Julius. Nice to see you all. I know quite a few of you. I see the names here in the top list. Nice to see you. And Julius, yes, perfect. Thank you. I will share my screen. Hopefully you see a concrete plaza. Okay, so I thought that going into this webinar, I thought a little bit about how to present the theme soul of place in a good way. And I think it's best done through a personal story, because somehow you need to connect the soul of place to yourself and your version of soul of place. So I will take you through a presentation with quite a lot of images, and hopefully we can we can see some similarities between my journey and where you are at right now, because I think most of us have been on this journey when we're into Arctic tourism in one way or the other. So my name is Niklas Wede. I work for Swedish Lapland Visitors Board. Used to be active in the tourism industry with a small lodge called Arctic Retreat once upon a time. And after that, I've had the opportunity to work with different destination organizations. So I worked for Heart of Lapland and now for Swedish Lapland. And it's given me a really nice insights into tourism up here. And I've been to both Norway and Finland, of course, and as well, and seen how tourism industry has developed in your country. So hopefully I can present something that will be at least thought-provoking. I will just check if I do this, do you still see the presentation? Did anything change for you?
We will see it.
Perfect. All right. Okay, I will get going then. So the slide you see here is from Skärholmen, immigrant-dense suburb in the south of Stockholm. It's November 2016. I just exited the subway that you can see the T over here. On my meeting to a colleague he's called Burak. And on the way, they had forgotten to wash that metal foundation you can see in the foreground from the weekend's shooting. And I decided to take that picture just to remind myself that this is not a place I want to be anymore at all. And the reason for me and Burak meeting was that we didn't get paid for the last courses we ran in a gym close by. So we decided to quit and start our own company and do what we did back then, basically courses in personal training. So we ran those courses for about 5 or 6 years. And in 2023, I just figured out that I really hated doing those courses. I didn't have my soul in the business, not one day during those 5 or 6 years. It was only about money, basically. There was nothing else, no concern, no customer focus or personal focus on anything else than just getting paid for the courses. So to me, by chance, I happened upon Arctic tourism. I had no idea it existed, even though I still lived in Luleå and went back and forth from Stockholm and Gothenburg. But just by chance, I got into this by buying a small place and starting to develop. And over the last almost 10 years, I've had a fantastic chance to see, meet, and also reflect a little bit on where we are and what makes Arctic tourism really unique. Some of you may recognize the text here. I stole it, to be honest, but I think it's so good, so I think it's worth repeating. But basically, someone once said, and I think she's here in this webinar even, I think it's Johanna. We define our Arctic world by 100 ways or more. Mountains, forests, wetlands, great rivers, oceans, art, music, literature, the people who live here. And to me, the people has been a very key focus and the most interesting part of the whole journey, simply because you meet these people who, for instance, in this picture is Mikael Sorra, who lives in Harads or close to Harads, and he has this product called moose calling. So instead of hunting products, he provides people with a chance to go out in the forest with him when he's calling for moose. And I think it's just one of those absolutely amazing things you can do up here that just completely out of the ordinary, something you couldn't do anywhere else in the world pretty much, or very few places. And the people doing these things are usually very interesting people as well, with very different stories and very different perspectives on life and what's important and what's not. So listening to Micke, who likes to talk a lot, is an absolute treat, and had a huge impact on me when I met him the first time. Just understanding both the ecosystems, the forest, the Sami, and that way of life from a more inside perspective, not just the outside perspective. And we also have our traditions, our food traditions that obviously is not new to you, but still it's part of our way of life here, where we dry our meat in the spring, smoke our fish in the summer, boil our coffee over open fire. So it's about a way of life, a rhythm, and a way of belonging. And I think this is important because we end up sometimes taking these things for granted. And I think a good measurement of a destination is how good they are at actually showing these things to every person who comes there. And I think this is a key thing to remember. Most places you go to, you never experience what's unique in that place as a tourist because there's very few touch points. You can have a city guide, you can have a outdoor adventure, whatever it is, but unless the place has a coherent idea of what it is and what it provides, it's very, very hard to get under the skin and really understand where you are and feel for it. Because I think understanding is super important to build perspective, feeling, and let's say connection. And I think that last line in this slide, slowing down and feeling, is something that we all have trouble making time for in our busy lives, where we're looking a lot at bookings and tour operator contacts and the next winter and planning and logistics and staffing and so on. So it's easy to forget these very fundamental things that are actually the key and the source to our businesses, is that slowing down and feeling where we are, feeling what the product is, feeling who we are, and what the company actually represents. And no matter how you see it, no matter what kind of company you run in the Arctic region of Sweden, Norway, or Finland, the foundation is pretty much very, very similar. And getting down to the roots and the soul of place is going to be, I think, one of the key aspects into what divides a company that's just there to make money from a company who wants to present guests with an experience. And I think if we could look at the numbers of everything that's going on, I think those who can charge a premium and have a very, very happy customer base are those that have identified and found their solo place and works from that day in and day out, presents that to every guest every single day. But getting there is really tough. It either requires excellent staff who has this in what you call it, like intrinsic ability to share their soul and the soul of place, or you need to have a very, very, very good documented system for how you present this or how it is lived in your destination. And across time, people have tried to name this mysterious quality that makes one place feel different from another. And there's actually been research into it as well. Not that much, because it's of course very difficult to research these things in general and find good systems that are worldwide and encompassing, and also it doesn't fit academics so well to research these more spiritual aspects of um, of place and destination. The Romans called it genius loci, the spirit or the soul of place, and genius loci is a term that is derived from, let's say, very old religions where mountains, rivers, villages, and so on had its own guardian spirit, like some kind of unseen force that identified that place and kept it safe and secure and gave it a certain characteristics. We can find, of course, similar accounts in the Sami mythology where trees, streams were considered to be very much alive and having a spirit. And I think what's nice about this way of thinking is that if you identify a place as a living thing, and what a place is, then well, that's pretty much up to you. But if you identify it as a living thing, then you start also being able to decipher and see the characteristics of that place. If you look at it as a dead thing or a geographic location with boundaries, then we usually tend to work more within the topography field, where we look at place as being a certain amount of trees, rivers, forests, wetlands, and so on. But if we look at it as a living thing, the topography is less important, and we're actually looking more deeper into the heart of why it's there and what is there. And this is where it gets interesting to me, is that when we speak about the solo place, we're not actually being mystical or spiritual or fluffy. We're actually being practical, because when we know the land, when we understand what it needs and what it gives, we can finally act in a way that sustains both us and it. And what that means is, if we understand where we are, if we understand what is reasonable to do within our place, then we're more likely to make the right decisions regarding, should we build more cabins, or should we develop new products? Should we get more snowmobiles? Because we know the limitations, what's actually practical. And I think we know these things intrinsically in our hearts, basically. And if you look around and you look at the absolutely most magnificent places and most successful businesses up here, I think they found that good balance between not being too large and not being too aggressively using the land around them. And the first steps here in working with the solo place is to listen. So using your senses, light, sound, scent, touch. How does it feel? How does it smell? What do you hear and what do you see? And to do this, basically, you need to be present. You need to be in the place where you're supposed to greet people and take people and show them your world. You need to know that place yourself. You need to have a connection to it. You need to have an idea of what the place is. So you have a story to tell. And to help you with that story, you have local memories, basically people who have been living close to or in the place you are working in, and sharing their memories, like the local stories. What happened here? How was life? What did we do here? Why were people living here? It's nice to have their names because that works. It's like an anchor to place. So local voices, local memories, and names. And we all know that in tourism today, we have quite a lot of people coming from other parts of the country you are working in or from all over the world. And getting them to be able to communicate local memories, local names, local voices requires a lot of work, of course, because they don't have that background or history. There's no chance for most of them to even understand solo plays. I think many times we have people working in the restaurant who are basically never been outside and done the things that the guests around them are actually experiencing. So they have very little connection, very little understanding. And I think that's something we all up here need to be very aware of, that the magic and the connection to nature here is what's really, really unique about our destinations. And if we lose that, then our product is not as valuable as it may have once been. So I think companies working very, very closely in this regard with quality will always have an edge in the long run over companies who choose to just focus on the experience from an economic side of things. We also need to identify, I mean, we have seasons. Right now we're in the Faroe Islands and they don't have seasons. It's the same weather all year round, pretty much. We have seasons and we need to be aware of seasons. So the cycles of time, rest, and renewal need to be carefully experienced and maybe even written down and considered, because it brings opportunity to differentiate. And even if it's winter, having uh, that script or that idea of how the landscape changes is an important aspect of being able to serve local food and so on, because most of the things we eat are not curated in winter. So to tell the story of smoking fish, you need to have a much wider approach. So the story is all year round, even though we have most of our visitors in winter. So it's important to really consider the cycles and the whole year in this genius Loki soul of place metaphor, basically. And then again, also silence. What is the sounds, the smells, and the experience of the land where we are when we stop filling it with our own noise? So, simply put, you have to spend time, listen, get to know, understand where you are and who were here before you, to identify the actual solo place and have a chance at have a chance at making some kind of living documentation that can work as a foundation for your company. And that's where the next slide takes inspiration from, is once we start listening, next is to express what we hear when solo place becomes the soul of a company. For some, it's the architecture of food. For others, the rhythm of operations, and everything from how we greet and say farewell, how we host, what we celebrate, who works here, and what stories we tell. All of these things should be derived from solo place. So if you see solo place as the singular point of knowledge, then we can also start to identify how we actually get that singular point of knowledge. So keeping the fire alive. Every company, like every ecosystem, changes over time. The key is to build rituals and systems that keeps its roots alive. By considering how others experience you, you must also be the guest, the new employee, the activity partner, the maintenance person, the driver, the cook, and so on. So to achieve operational excellence, we need to start or continue doing everything from the ground up, starting from place and then designing a system and documenting and creating some kind of a master register for our business where the solo place lies and also how it manifests in the business in every single branch um, of our operations. So basically, I don't have a slide for it, but you start up with the solo place and then you go step by step down into the operational side of things. So solo place will be important even for a thing like laundry, because we need to consider these aspects of how we do the logistics with laundry, how we talk about like why we choose a certain company to do the laundry for us and so on. There should be answers that tie back into the solo place in every single step of your business. And I'm glad that we have Kamperipan and Ida Johansson with us today because they've done an amazing journey as a sort of city lodge. They've done some really, really amazing stuff over the years regarding solo place and have managed to weave it into their experience in a very nice way, I think. Especially considering they are very close to the city of Kiruna, or well, the fractured city of Kiruna today, and still have that very, very strong profile among tour operators as being not a city hotel, but they managed to make it into something that I'm not quite sure how to explain. So I'm glad Ida can help us out with that a little bit later today. But I think that last line here in this slide, I think this is something that we have a tendency, because of time constraints mostly, we have a tendency to skip this aspect. Sorry. That how others experiences us, we tend to forget because we are so enveloped in their daily business that we forget these things. So coming to a place up here in the far north, being the new employee, requires some onboarding, and we may have our onboarding where we try to get people to learn like the logistics and understanding the operations, but we give them time and opportunity to actually do the activities, be the drivers, maybe even be the cook and so on, so that they understand the whole aspect of the business. And for us as well as managers or owners, whatever it might be, do we actually step in and learn these things, understand them, and then from our perspective as owners or as managers, step in and look at where does this aspect of the business tie into what our business is about, meaning the solo place in this instance. I think that's something we can all probably always remind ourselves to get better at, because it's the organization as a whole in the end that will deliver the guest experience, and it doesn't take that many holes or let's say it doesn't take that many meetings or contacts with staff who don't understand the solo place, who are not invested or interested before the whole guest experience falters. So you pretty much have to keep that chain 100% solid, or you will have a less magical experience in the end. So I have some practical ideas, and some of these probably are already in place at your company, but I will share them anyway. I think creating a place book, a living story archive where owners, employees, and guests can contribute memories and reflections is a great way of doing it. And a place book doesn't need to be just one entity. It can be something like a guest book where guests write their experience, write about their experiences and reviews. It can also be a journal, staff journals. It can be a much more complex system, maybe, where you have a lot of written information. And I will say that AI is probably a very helpful thing in this case to sort a lot of information and try to find a system using AI where you can get manuals for different layers of the business. So using modern technology is probably a great way of being able to customize and cater certain parts of the information to certain operations in your business. So, for instance, the transportation services might need to have its own set of knowledge instructions and so on, while the activity guides will need a completely different set. But the core idea should be the same, only tweaked to where the operations are actually happening. And then also onboarding new staff and management. Maybe we should take a bit more time to actually let them get to know the land and the activities around us, what we do with guests, and let them see the company through a guest point of view. And I think it might be good for everybody in the company to do this occasionally, not just once, but have it as an internal development kind of tool. Also trying to find these local traditions and making small ceremonies or mini events, marking maybe seasons or specific dates. I mean, Christmas is one of those things. Christmas is very, very appreciated, of course, when people come here, especially from the UK maybe, but all countries, of course. And doing something for Christmas, something special, is of course something everybody in the world does. And I think celebrating these mini kind of events by doing small certain decorations or serving something specific is a great way of connecting guests and place, because it's something that they're not used to, something that you can talk about, tell a story about. So trying to find rituals and ceremonies and mini events marking the seasons or specific dates is a great way of connecting and also talking about solo plays. Also encouraging leadership transitions to include storytelling and depth of place, not just financial handovers. And I think everybody here has seen how companies who change, well, generational changes or changes in staffing or changes in staffing, at some points go from being that magical place to something that's not quite as special, where there's hiccups, there's problems, and they're less hospitable and service-minded. And I find that usually this is because during these transitions, it's very, very hard to keep the essence and the soul, because it's very often tied to people. So here it's super important to have that place book or a brand book that encompasses all these aspects of how we run the business and how we present our product. So, and I made this slide as this is one of the last slides before we go into some discussions. But basically, what happens if we consider the land is part of our team as well? If we take that into consideration, because we design better when we know what sustains us. And usually from the Genius Loki stuff that I've been able to find when designing this webinar, spirit also lives in practice. So we need to show it in how we build, how we move, how we care. Also, I found this very thought-provoking. If your place could speak, what would it say about you? If we step into the shoes of the place we're at, what would it say about you and your business? And then authenticity happens when place and company align, and I think guests sense it, employees live it, and place feels it. So getting to that authenticity is super difficult because it requires so much understanding of place. And I think this is the last point is where the hiccups are in some cases and where we struggle and where we tend to just jump over that point and not really go too deep into it and spend time in it. Because authenticity from a business perspective is maybe not what you're looking for first and foremost, depending on your motivations. And I think we all see it. Authenticity is often something that's plastered over. You have a hotel or something, and you put, something in the lobby that's supposed to represent the place that you're at. Stuffed animals or wood or something. But if you don't tie it into a story, it kind of feels empty and hollow and as something that's just for show. And I think that's where authenticity needs to be considered. And you go into some lobbies where they spend a lot of time in thinking about this and how to make it authentic, and you can feel that it feels just right. So I want to end with that authenticity thing. If you give it some thought, I think you know exactly what I mean with going to a place where people have actually spent a lot of time and love in preparing the areas for guests to be there, as opposite to just having areas because you need to make money. All right. It's always boring to talk about these topics and not have discussions because obviously there's a lot of fine print to talk about when we talk about solo plays and these kind of inner workings. So I think I will leave to Julius to have some panel discussions. I hope you
Thank
found
you,
this a
Nicholas.
little bit interesting and thought-provoking. And over to you, Julius.
Thank you, Nicholas. At least I feel like I'm very inspired. I have a lot of thoughts in my head. But how about you? Any questions, thoughts at the moment? Something what you would like to ask or comment? There was a lot of interesting point of views, and like I said, I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of things on my paper. But like one thing what you talk was where you started was that your own soul, that is it in what are you are doing, that we need, or at least I think that it would be great if we have the soul when we are doing the work, when we are doing the thing. But the business, it's not all about you. It's all about the people surrounding you. And you said very lovely that we need to take care that the people who are surrounding us, that we know them and we know how they feel, and we need to go in their positions. And that, for me, that's the whole point of the whole product development series, what we have been now doing in this project, that we need to understand who are there, who are the people, who are the human beings, what they think, what they feel, and what kind of worries and thoughts they have. And then you have this great sentence that if your place could talk, what it would say. And at least for me, that's very deep sentence and very powerful sentence. That do we always take the responsibility for our actions, whatever those are, like which kind of services we produce or which kind of figures we put in the entrance hall? Is it just that, well, this looks good, let's put this in here? Or do we think that what's the story behind this? Does it fit in the story where we are living and doing? So anyway, a lot of interesting things, but now I will ask again. Do you have any feedback, comments, questions for Niklas? No panic if you don't. We can continue and we will come back in these topics later, I'm sure.
I can jump in very quickly, Julius.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to find a hand to raise, but I could not, so I'll just jump in. First of all, Niklas, fantastic presentation. You mentioned in the very beginning you wished that it was thought-provoking, and I think it was both thought-provoking and very inspirational, but not only inspirational. I think you gave us also some practical things to think about. That is very true and very good. I like to do this exercise where, you know, it's not that much of a question, it's more of a comment, and try to summarize certain things. And I loved how you brought up what Julius said about, you know, what would the place say. But I thought also it was very interesting when you mentioned the difference between topography and heart of a place. And also something that we tend to discuss quite often and not often enough at the same time, that spirit of a place doesn't mean spiritual. Spirit, it's something for everybody, even though you might not be spiritual. And I think this conversation in everything that we do should be present. So I really, really like that. But yeah, also what you mentioned about, you know, the small ceremonies, practical things that we could do to make it even more special, both for us to celebrate the change of the seasons, to celebrate certain things, but also help the guests visiting us in this celebration, make them part of why is it so important. And I remember myself, you know, when we have the sun for the first time, people that have come from a sunny destination, they don't understand how, you know, how big of a moment it is for us living here, how much of a exciting, and, you know, sometimes we get teary eyes and all that. How can we make them part of this? And they will get great value out of it as well. So yeah, it's a lot of things that, you know, while you're talking, it's very difficult to translate it in action. But I'm really, really, well, thankful for your presentation, and also looking forward to hear from the rest of the participants. So yeah, great session.
I agree. Any other comments or summarizing? And you will find the hand if you need to raise it. There's a button called react, so you will find it from there, but you won't need it. You can just open your mic and say your comments and questions. But thank you, Niklas, and let's go to the next part of the morning session. We will have a panel discussion, and we will have 3 lovely guests, professionals, with us today, reflecting the soul of place in Arctic tourism. Anja Tellervo-Hansen, Ida Johansson, and Outi Rantala are with us today. Welcome, ladies. And Our point of the discussion is to talk that what does it mean when we are talking to roots and we are talking about the soul of the place? What does it mean for the Arctic destinations and Arctic tourism? What does it mean, the soul of place? Is it about the people? Is it about the nature, memory, traditions? What is it? And how it could, how it should, how it can guide us when we are doing the tourism business. We have people from different kind of backgrounds now in the panel discussion, so we will get different kind of angles to this subject. And I want to remind that every one of you who are listening us, you will have the opportunity to take part of the discussion. So you can write your thoughts in the chat, or you can just raise your hand or open your mic whenever you feel. So we will have 4 parts in the discussion, and let's start. First of all, I would like you to give a short introduction about yourself. Who are you? Where are you coming from? And the warm-up question is that if you could describe the place you call home in one word, what would it be? Very easy warm-up question, but let's start. Let's start from Ida. Tell us, who are you and how you would describe the home?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold in case I sound strange, but I'll do my best.
You are not the only one.
No, I'm guessing I'm definitely not the only one. But my name is Ida Johansson, and I work currently as a marketing and sales manager at Camp Nippon in Kiruna. I'm also born and raised in Kiruna, lived most of my youth here, moved away in my 20s, and then came back later on in my 30s. And I was looking at this question, and it's actually very hard to describe it in one word. So, because home for me can mean a lot of things. But I got down to the word of recharge.
All right. Very good. I'm sure that we will continue discussion about that in later, but let's have the next panelist, Anja. Go ahead.
Yes, and everyone can hear me well?
Yes.
Good. So my name is Anja Hansen. I work at Destination Sapmi. So we are a destination company in Finnmark in Norway. And the word I would use to describe a home, if I do the destination as my home, it would be diverse.
Very good. Very good. And then Outi.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here in the panel with Ida and Anja. My name is Outi Rantala, and I come from the University of Lapland in Rovaniemi in Finland. And I work here as a professor, especially with responsible Arctic tourism. And I choose my one word to be forest.
Very good. Recharging and forest, and then the Anja's word was
Diverse.
diverse.
So,
yes. Very good. Before we go into part 1 and theme 1, reach and belonging, what kind of thought you have after the Niklas presentation? Any highlights or something top on your mind?
If I did really like the thing, I liked the whole presentation. It was a good presentation, but the thing that I started thinking about personally was what does the place say about you? So that opened up a lot of thoughts for me that I think I'll definitely take with me and do some thinking around, because we often talk about the place and what we think about the place, but then to swap it and see it on the other way around, I think it's a good perspective to see it from.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And first word for me from that is the responsibility that what are you doing? There is effective of your actions and work. How about Anja and Outi? Do you have some highlights?
Yeah, I was thinking about I like the part where you think about the generational changes as well, where how everything can change from generation to generation, and how we try to also preserve some of the heritage that we have with us. So it's interesting to see how the places can change from generation to generation.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about Outi?
Also, same issues that have been already brought up, but I also liked how Niklas was highlighting the role of all staff and other companies with whom you might be collaborating, kind of how to get everyone involved in thinking about the roots and the place. So I thought this is maybe something I was also reflecting on while preparing for this panel.
Yeah. Let's go to the theme number 1, roots and belonging. How place shapes who we are and how we work. What kind of place has shaped you the most, and how has it influenced your perspective of way of thinking and maybe of way of doing? So please tell us a little bit your background and experiences, that how the place has shaped your way of thinking and doing. Who want to start? Let's start with Anja.
I can start, yes. So for me personally, I feel like I'm from a small village in Norway, where we have the Kven Institute. My mom is from Finland, from Seinäjoki. My dad is Norwegian, Kven, and Sami. So I feel like the place where I grew up is also, it represents kind of who I am as a person. Because in Berkshire we have the Kven Institute, the Kven culture and history is quite strong there. We also have the Berkshire where we have the reindeers in our area, and Sami culture and history is also close to my heart, as well as the more local, Norwegian side as well. So the Berkshire itself is a mix of different histories, different cultures, and it represents who I am. I am a mix of everything, and it also changes how we work as well. I think coming from a small village, when I grew up, I said I would never live there when I grow up. When I become an adult, I will not live in Berkshire or in Porsanger for that matter as well. But then once you grow up, you move to a bigger city or see other areas, you realize that it's quite nice in the smaller villages as well. You have more time, you have the closeness to nature, and you might be more sustainable in a way as well, living in the villages, in the smaller areas, because you have the connection to nature and you don't want to throw away too much, and it's one of the heritages we have with us coming from the north, I feel.
How you think that is it connection to the values, like when you grow up and you become to be an adult and you maybe see the world a little bit different kind of angles, and then you start to appreciate the things what there actually is in the small places or in the north or wherever it is. So what is the connection of your values?
I feel the values are there because, well, I grew up And most of us in this panel today and the participants today, we have grown up with lighting a fire and just keeping it kind of staying in one area. You can't, if you're not careful, you'll spread the fire and there will be a forest fire and so on and so on. And also, if you go on a hike, you bring back your trash. If you go camping, you bring back your trash. It's kind of rooted in our history and our culture as well. So I feel like our values are shaped also by where we grow up as well. We want to save most of our things. We don't want to. It's not buy and trash. It's more we buy it and we try to keep it as long as possible. Values as well. So yeah, I feel like the place can also form and shape our values.
Yeah. How about Outi? What kind of thoughts you have?
My thoughts maybe relates to what Anja was just saying. So this was few years ago. Time goes fast. Maybe 10 years ago, I was living for few years in Alta in northern Norway, and we were then writing with two of my Norwegian colleagues about snowmobiles, and my colleague said that because we were trying to start to reflect on our relationships with snowmobiles and when did we first time get involved, and then my colleague said that no, we have to go way back in time and think about our nature relationships and where does that kind of, where are the roots of that. And then I became kind of, when thinking about it, realized that maybe the place that has really shaped mostly my nature relationship, but maybe also my way of working, it has been my childhood summer house, which is on the west coast of Finland, where I used to spend a lot of time with my grandfather as a child and also as a young adult. And it relates to what Anja said, because I feel that many in northern countries, I feel that and think that many of us has second homes, and I know that in Finland not every family has, but very many families have somehow access to a second home. And I feel that this is something that has shaped how we work and think, and it has developed us kind of this sensitivity to be with nature and in nature and with others. When we are in a second home, we are kind of, you can't escape. You don't have your daily hobbies and tasks, but you have to spend more time together. You have to spend more time with the people and with the place. And also it's kind of a more simple way of living. You can't just buy new things, but you often have things that you don't need in your first house anymore. So you kind of can test alternative ways of doing things also in a second home. And maybe I feel that this is what Anja was also talking about, developing this kind of, that you understand the consequences of things that you do and try maybe a little bit slower way of living. And I hope that that's still kind of this sensitivity that we develop, that it's still somehow present in the ways that I work today.
Very interesting that it's all about the sense of place, but when you have the second home or the cottage, you have the variation in your life, that you have different kind of environments where you're spending your time, and then you have different kind of versions of sense of place or places. Very interesting. How about Ida?
Yes, I have like similar answers to the others as well, but for me, like I grew up in Kiruna, and I think, and also had a second home, a cottage outside of Kiruna. And the first 10 years, I spent a lot of time there, especially with my grandpa, and he was we were out a lot in nature. He had his forest, so we were working in the forest. He taught me about hunting and fishing and being a part of nature, not taking more than you need, taking care of nature. He walked on his walks every day to see how the forest was and what was going on and everything like that. And I remember a lot of the things up until when I was 10. He passed away, sadly. So, but those few years shaped me a lot in the way of how I think about nature and kind of live with nature. But then growing up in Kiruna, it's a small town, I never sensed that I was belonging there. So I always was looking for something else. So I moved away when I was in my early 20s and lived abroad in Australia for a long time. And there I was studying tourism, and I was studying indigenous tourism, and in particular the Aboriginal side of it. And I started to see connections with the way that I actually grew up and all the stories that my granddad told me. And then all of a sudden, on the other side of the world, I started to feel like I was belonging somewhere. So I had to leave to get that sense of belonging for my home where I am right now. So it just gave another perspective because I didn't appreciate it at the time when I was living here. So those years I think shaped me the most in how I work with tourism and why I work with tourism today.
So sometimes you need to go a little bit far away or zoom out to realize that what are the pieces in there, and also I think every one of you have talked about the grandparents or the chain, that it's very important part about the soul, about the values, about how you think, that you have some kind of connection, some kind of experiences with your parents or with your grandparents in certain kind of places. But are there some kind of specific values or traditions or actions or stories from your region or wherever your background that really you think that those guides your way also today? You already a little bit give us a snapshot about those thoughts earlier, but do you something that you really have a strong feeling that yes, this certain kind of story or thing is still there with me?
Well, I think for
Besides
me
what
it was,
you,
yeah,
go ahead.
I think for me it was a lot like, and it's in this region overall, I'd say for many people, it's like preparing. We had a lot preparing for winter. Like now we have to get ready for the winter season. And it was, how we kind of work around the food. We had our own potato land. Like I said, we were fishing a lot, hunting a lot. And when we were taking in the moose or the fish, what do you do with everything? Like, do you throw away a part? Do you use everything? So, and there I remember my grandma, she always took all these weird parts of the animal and made something out of it. I don't know really what she made, but we ate it anyway. So it was like taking everything and using everything, and also respecting the nature. Like, we are only borrowing the nature for that time that we are here in our life, and we need to also make sure that we treat it like that. And I think that has a lot of connections if we go back to how we work with tourism and sustainable tourism and sharing our values and culture, that the nature is the reason for people to travel here. And for me, who grew up with it, I grew up with a lot of respect on how we take care of the land. And in everything I do today, that thought is always coming back to me, like, are we taking care of it in the best way? Can we use this as something else? Should we renovate this instead of buying a new thing? So it's like reusing and thinking sustainable is, it's kind of like a little bit in the DNA, I would say.
Yeah. And then we come back into Niklas' sentence that if your place could talk, that what it would say. Anja.
Yeah, I totally agree, Ida, with what you're saying, and I feel like it's kind of embedded in our DNA that we want to keep the nature for the next generation, and we don't want to use too much. So, and I feel like one of the things that kind of always comes out in my head is that it's time to slow down. We have the time to slow down. We have busy lives. Everyone here and working in tourism, we know it can be busy and stressful. But it's when you go out to nature, and you get to slow down, you get to slow living. And I feel like most of us, we want to have travelers kind of with also the same mentality, that we want to slow down when they come to us. We don't want the guest that's rushing through the experiences, because they won't get the same experience as we have. They want to have a glimpse into kind of our way of life. And I think one of our way of lives is that we are slowing down, is that we have time to go berry picking, we have time to go hunting. And as Ida also mentioned, that we also kind of prepare for everything. Like we follow the seasons. So for me, also the 8 seasons of the reindeer herder seasons, it's also things that I also have in my backpack as well. And as Ida mentioned as well, with now in the fall, we are preparing everything for winter. We are clearing out our backyards. We are packing the last part of the moose meat in the freezers and everything. So yeah.
Very interesting points, and we will come back to those a little bit later also. But then for me, the Niklas talked about the staff, that how much we have people, employees coming from the outside of the area, example the restaurants or wherever, that how important, or is it important, than the waiter or whoever knows even a little bit about the story about the moose meat, or the traditions, that how we got it, or where we got it, or what's the process behind the plate or the dish. But yeah, Outi, do you have something to add?
I can also continue maybe in next questions. I was thinking about the seasons also, what Anja was saying, and how kind of we learn to adapt to the seasons, and maybe this goes later when we talk about tourism and tourism development, that how do we kind of apply that in our work nowadays, or do we kind of preserve that more for our own free time, and yeah, maybe this is something still working on and thinking about.
Yeah, very good. Let's go to the next theme. We were there already a little bit, but how about the place in the practice? How the characters of the place lives in what we create and offer in our daily life business, or our daily life work. What do you think? What does back to the roots looks like in your daily practice, mainly in your business or research? You have had great ideas and thoughts about the chains and the heritage and the land, but how it really is in your daily business or work?
I can maybe start, but how to say, since I work at the university and not directly with tourism, I also have kind of experience from working in tourism earlier on, but maybe I could say kind of more generally about this, that and it relates this idea of seasons, for example, that the philosopher Toivo Salonen, who used to work at our university, he was talking about this kind of, he had this idea of how to become a friend with nature. And he was talking about that it means that you have to learn about the nuances in nature, about the small details of the nature. And this you can only learn, I think this was what Anja was saying earlier about these seasons and slowing down, that this you can only kind of learn when you spend time with nature and learn these details, and then start to kind of adapt or adjust yourself and your way of being and working to these details and nuances in the landscape or in the place. And maybe this is kind of what we offer, that can we somehow, I would say, adjust even more, thinking about how does our ways of working and what we offer, how does that increase the well-being of the landscape or the place, and how does the place or the landscape increases our well-being, kind of understanding that it's this relationship or two-direction relationship, and I feel that this is as what we've been talking and what Ida and Anja has been saying, that it's very much part of the way we work here in the North, that we understand that we are all the time related to the surrounding place and landscape and people, and it should be visible on what we create and offer. And I feel that maybe, as I said, that since I'm working at the university, I could give a practical example how it's also visible in my work. I feel that one way that it's visible, it's not only kind of the way we work closely with the surrounding natural environment, but also with people around us. For example, here in the North, we are quite, well, not that many who do research on Arctic tourism, for example. So we have found a really good network in all Arctic countries. So we are researchers from 7 universities who work really closely. And I think this is also part of what Visit Arctic Europe is doing, that you combine kind of your forces and work closely. So kind of this close relations, I would say, that is really kind of the key character, either close relations with the surrounding nature or with the surrounding people or with other researchers, with other entrepreneurs, and how do we bring that out in our work?
What do you think, Outi, that do we have, we can think the whole, like a Finnmark, Norrbotten and Finnish Lapland, or just the Finnish Lapland, whatever, but do we have a common idea of the spirit of the region, of the area, or of the land? Or is there a lot of variation how the actors, the stakeholders think that what does it mean? Or do we have some kind of common red line in there?
Maybe Ida and Anja are better in putting that into the words, but I do feel, as I sense that since I've been working closely with also other Nordic and Arctic researchers, for example, about and we were, for example, just few weeks ago in Iceland together with our students and researchers and other stakeholders, and I feel that one issue that we were discussing is this, that when you are here in the North, there's the kind of the surrounding nature is really specific. So we were, for example, discussing tourism employment and issues related to that. And we were saying that it's still specific kind of and special when you are working in tourism here in the North, because you have to understand the kind of the places and nature and it impacts. It's a safety issue, but also other issues that brings. So I would say that it somehow relates to the specific seasons and nature, but I'm not sure how to put that in words. We all have different ways of also working with that when we do marketing and that type of things, but I would say that there is a common ground.
What do you think, Anja and Ida? Do we have a common ground, and do we have some kind of red line together about the spirit? Of course, there are many levels, like there's this very local and micro-local level about the identity and the spirit, but also a little bit generally. What do you think, Anja?
I think that in general, in Arctic Europe, we have kind of a common ground. We have some similarities between us, a lot of similarities actually, but there are of course some local variations and everything regarding the culture and are you at the coast, are you at the forest, are you inland, or yeah. So those variations we will always have them. But as I represent Destination Sapmi, it's also very big area. So we have kind of the inland with Karasjok and Kautokeino, so the forests, and kind of you don't have the coastline. But then we have Porsanger and Tana and Nesseby, where you have more of the coast, you have the sea Sami, you have the Kvarn. So of course there is variations just in our company, Yeah, but I think in general we have some common ground, and we can. It says here also how the character or place lives in what we create and offer. In tourism, a lot of us, we can give a glimpse into our traditions and our way of living just with the small things. And I think sometimes we overthink and we make it more difficult than it has to be for our travelers. Home visits is very popular at the moment, and just being in nature, being in the quiet, seeing the stars. It doesn't have to be too complicated for us to kind of show how we live. We just have to simplify everything. We don't have to have too many add-ons to every product that we sell.
Very good point. And then I go again back to what Niklas said, that exactly those doesn't need to be so hard or complicate things. But then when we are doing even those simple things, we need to have the connection to the place. We need to have a connection between the people. We need to have the soul. Because I agree that we human beings, when we are traveling, we don't need always some very extraordinary, amazing hula baloo. We can just need to have the simple things, because it's all about how we feel things. How is the experience at the moment? And there we need to have the connection that we know, and we have the connection to the land, to the nature, to the environment where we are working. But how about Ida? What do you think? There was two questions.
Yes, but if I talk about how to put it in practice and how we have done at Camp Refund, we are working from the red thread or the red line, so you can say it, which is the three cultures that we have in Kiruna. So everything that we do are based on what Kiruna is and what we want to showcase the guests when they're coming here, and what we would like them to experience, which is our everyday life, basically. And then we have the cultures. We have the Sami culture, we have the Torne Valley culture, and we also have the Swedish culture. A lot of the time we refer to the Swedish mining culture, because Kiruna is also a mining city. And so everything that we do in the business and all the decisions that we take in all the areas is also going back to this red thread. Are they fitting in these cultures? And it's more like the others said, not making it so complicated. It's like, what is the place for you? What is the place for me? And how can we connect a new activity? Is it connected to these three cultures, or a design, or buying in new glasses in the restaurant? How can we connect that back to the cultures or the sense of the place? The whole spaceship, when we work with our staff, how can we get that back to the red thread? Now we also have a lot of international people working for us, a lot of international travelers. And I always say that everyone ended up here for one reason or the other. So it's about finding that why are you here? How did you find this place? And what is this place for you? And that's what you want to share with the guests as well. So, because it's still going back to, well, everyone has been drawn here one way or the other. Someone might have ended up here by accident, I don't know, but they've stayed for some reason. And what is the reason? And what is your why? So that's what we always try and go back to in all the areas of the business, in how we work with local entrepreneurs, and how we collaborate with different companies, how we work with the climate, and also how we work with what we're offering in terms of food. So everything goes back to that again.
Yeah, and that was very good jump also to our next theme, that the visitor perspective, that what do travelers and guests seek today, and what they want? What do you think that what What are the travelers looking for? Are they looking to authentic and emotional or personal thing? And are you responding those needs?
Yes. Should I start? Or
You can start,
yeah.
yes.
I think, like you said there, what they're looking for. For me, when I speak to a lot of people coming here, traveling here, or finding their way here, this destination in itself is a very unique place to travel to. It's only a very small percentage of the people in the world who would travel to the Arctic. So I think just that in itself is the expectations are to see and experience something very unique that they want to experience anywhere else. It can also be seen like an adventurous destination to go to as well. And I think in that sense, you're also looking for the authenticity in the place. What is the soul of the place, like we're talking about, an insight. I think there's an interest in see like, oh, how can you? What I often hear is like, you have total darkness for a month. How will you survive? You know what I mean? And then when they come here in winter time, they're like, oh, it's not actually dark all the time. So it's they have a sense of the place being very harsh and very survival mode and things like that. And then when we want to welcome them here, you can see it's a very diverse place, and it's a very unique place, and it's a very warm place in a lot of sense. So I think they already have a lot of expectations that might not be matched to reality. So it's good that they come here, and then we can show them why we love the place and why we are working with this and our different way of living, and hopefully also give them something to take home with. So I think experiences nowadays, I find that people, they don't want to just sit and watch. They want to be a part of it. So be a part of the experience, be a part of when you're out fishing, for example, they want to try fishing. They want to be a part of cooking. They want to home visits, like Anja was saying. They want to come home and sit with the family and have discussions. And also the storytelling. So all the things that we learned from when we were young and our grandparents told us or friends told us or whoever, like sharing those stories, I think is very appreciated from the guest perspective.
Yeah, very good. How about Anja?
Yes.
What do you think?
I feel like, of course, we have different types of travelers and guests, of course. But I've seen the change. I've been in tourism now since I went to high school, so since 2010, so 15 years now. So I've seen how the guests also have changed throughout the years. And when I started in tourism, we had a lot of the bucket list hunters going to North Cape. Of course, we still have them, but we also have more and more guests that want to do more. Usually before, guests wanted to see and hear and kind of about the stories, about when they visit, they want to see and hear things. And then it changed, and then they wanted to learn more. So guests wanted to learn more when they came to on vacation. And today, I feel like it's more they want to do, they want to learn and do things. They want to be active in the activities they are they used to see before or hear about. Now they want to actively be a part of the experience. And we actually did a survey, or not we, but Creative Industry and the Sami Parliament on the Norwegian side did a study now with the summer travelers regarding Sami tourism, regarding Sami experiences. And one of the things that came up was that a lot of the guests are uncertain if the activity is actually authentic. So they are afraid of booking activities because they are afraid that they are booking something that is not real or is fake. So that is one of the things we have to also work on in communication out, because about 50% of everyone that answered, 50% wanted to do a Sami experience when they came to Norway. But a lot of them did not book because they were uncertain if it's authentic, if it's real, if it's sustainable, is it, yeah. is it a safe experience for them? So I feel like the guests today are more conscious, more aware, and more enlightened. So we have to be also more open about how we present our activities and experiences. We have to be open. If we have a foreign guide, well, you say that you have a foreign guide before the guests arrive, or else you will not meet their expectation. So we have to tell the guests a lot more before they come to meet their expectations. Because if they expect a Sami guide in a Sami outfit, they will be disappointed if they don't get that, if they were not told beforehand. And we are working now on changing a little bit with the experiences as well. We don't have our guides in Sami Gakti or the Kufta. They are regular people. We are regular people. So also enlightening the guests before they arrive and kind of lower their expectations that it's not fake. That we are the Gakti every day. And it's okay. It's part of the culture and it's part of our history and a way of life.
Very interesting. And the point is that we need to be more and more transparent in these days. And when we are, it's much easier. We don't need to think what they think or what which kind of thoughts they have, because when we are transparent, it's easy. The communication much easier. And of course, in the first place, we shouldn't have anything to hide. We just need to communicate who are we and trust that who we are and what we do. Very interesting. What about Outi? What kind of thoughts you have?
I was thinking about this, what Anja said last about that our, maybe since I was just a few weeks ago, as I said, in Iceland, and we were talking about tourism employment issues and learning about how, for example, how in Iceland most of the seasonal workers are foreign workers. So there's the whole kind of how everything has changed. If everyone who works for tourism is coming from elsewhere and for a short season, and maybe not all of them staying, and how does that then relate to what travelers and guests seek today? And also about this that they are, if the travelers are more aware and more conscious, and I feel that at the same time I have been doing some research that we were doing and discussing with some tourism actors. Also it became more visible that tourists and travelers, they are really global and mobile today. So they have traveled a lot, visited a lot. Maybe earlier on it was more kind of rare to come to the north, so it would have been travelers who had also visited elsewhere and who had maybe got a lot of information before they traveled here. And nowadays it can be, so you can book your travel easily. It could be that you come and you are aware of many things, but at the same time you probably don't have the information exactly from or about this place. So they are not so prepared maybe for the circumstances. So what does that then mean if you have foreign seasonal employees who have only started maybe shortly or just recently working in the place, and then if you have travelers who are aware of kind of what traveling is about, but not maybe aware of this exact place. So how do you then make this, if we talk about kind of getting back to the roots and the soul of a place? So kind of recognizing that I mean, it doesn't mean that it would not be an authentic encounter, an authentic experience that they are getting. So if you are there with all your senses and your body and everything, of course it can be authentic and a real sensual embodied experience. But then what does it mean if this is the reality that we live nowadays in this global world? And at the same time thinking about these kind of specific features of the North and what we can teach and what travelers can learn when if we are able to get all these kind of mobile people boat travelers and everyone to slow down in these moments.
Exactly, and there's so many levels that we need to take care and understand, and then we need to make our decisions on what we want to do and how we want to do it. And I will take the step to the final theme, the fourth theme, which is about the future. But the one word which is on my mind is innovation. And it's a little bit all of these three themes what we have been talked about, that how we could find new ways to experience the soul of place, and in the other hand, do you have some good examples that how the customers has had the opportunity to felt the strong sense of place? Or do you have some ideas that, hey, there could be a potential, we should do something in there? You have some ideas, but what do you think about the future, and first from angle of innovations and creating a new ways of creating the services and producing the services? Anja, go ahead.
I can start. Yeah. So with the innovations, if we start with that question, there is now, with the technology we have today, I feel like we have a big way to kind of connect the guests to us before they even arrive. So we have a lot of chances there. Like I've imagined that the guest in Australia can wear VR glasses and be one with the reindeer herd. You have a reindeer herd around you, surrounding you, and you have the VR glasses on before they actually come here. So they kind of get more of a immersive experience before they even arrive to the Arctic Europe region. And with that's an example with the reindeer kind of around. And in the VR experience, you will also have an introduction into ethical guidelines when you come visit our region, and you're going to get more education even before you arrive, and you get a sense of responsibility before you arrive. So I think that's one thing that we can be better at, is connecting with the guests before they sit on the plane or the train or the bus to our region.
Very interesting and good point. In service design, we are talking about the service path and the three steps of the service path. That there is the middle step where you are in there, you are in the middle of the service or experience, but exactly what happens before that. And then, of course, also what happens after you have been there or you have had the experience. And that's very interesting example that if we take the virtual reality and the virtual classes as an example, that many times I have been in the discussion that we have been thinking that, okay, how we could create that kind of content, example in the middle of the reindeers, that you put the classes on and that's it, and you can do it that wherever you are in the Australia or wherever. But when we are looking at that from the angle of the service path, that's something what is like a taster before, like a starter before you come, that it's create the feeling and tickling that, okay, yeah, I'm going there, and there is going to be something like that, and you are creating the drama, that there's something happening even before you are going in the plane and traveling there, and how we could use in that phase something more than just email that welcome, please take your warm clothes with you? How could we do something more? Because it's all about the experience. It's all about those small steps in our path when we are going and experiencing and coming back. So how we can make sure that every single of those small steps in the service paths will be experienced. How about Ida?
Yes. Yeah, how can we
Innovations.
carry the spirit of the place forward? I think a lot like I also think a lot about the technology and like because that's we are kind of in the phase of getting more and more technology, but also I think in the beginning of the session someone was mentioning also the shift of generations. So for me, culture and a sense of a place, you have like the foundation of the place and the culture of the place, but it also changes a lot with the people and with the generations and the changes that are happening when the generations are shifting. So I think it's also being open to new things that are coming up and seeing the new guests that are coming. But at the same time, I think it's also important to think about why we are doing this from the very first beginning and not and keep it quite simple and not getting carried away with everything that's going on around you. So still going back to what is it that we want to show the guests? What is it that makes this place special for us? And really not forgetting those sort of things when all the other exciting new things are happening around us. And I also think we're having a discussion at the moment about AI, for instance, like how do we use that in our work? Of course, it's new tools that can make things better for us. We should definitely be open to looking into using it and trying it. But now we're looking at it from the sustainability point of side. It's taking a lot of electricity, a lot of water. It's actually not a very sustainable thing at all when you think about it. So it's I think you always have to go back to your roots and to your why and make sure that what you do in your business, even when you're innovating new things, are they fitting into that box? Are you going back to that box where you started? Because at the end of the day, yes, there are a lot of guests who want to do different things, but if people want to come here, we should really show them the authentic experience, what is us, and not change too much for the guests, because there's always going to be people who want to experience your way of life if you're living it authentically for yourself.
Very good. And when we are developing and doing the innovation work, many times we say that we need to think outside the box. And of course, that's something what we need to do. We need to look the world from different kind of angles and trying to create new things. But that's very interesting and important point that we cannot forget where we are and where we are coming from, and that we need to make the decision that who are we, what we want to do, what are we believe in, and not forget that, whatever it is. How about Outi?
Yes, I'm not sure if this is exactly about innovation, but I was thinking with my research group, what we've been doing lately is testing and exploring this storytelling, but storytelling with kind of non-humans, so beings that are not human, and maybe this is kind of about thinking the way forward and whose voices we should be hearing and taking into account when we do this innovation, or if we think what we want for future. So is it only us humans? And I think this relates what Ida was, for example, now saying about what do we want and about the sustainability and responsibility. So we've been testing, like, for example, thinking about tourism development in Pyhä, in one ski resort, from point of view of a moss. How long time a moss, or from point of view of the rocks, how long time those have been, what happens, how does, all kind of what happens and what does the development look from, and if we think about the touristic development in a ski resort from point of view of a moss or rocks, which have existed there for millions of years and different kind of ecosystems, and then it looks quite short time, and then how could we is there, I mean, this doesn't give any easy solutions or practical, but it can maybe open new ideas. It can give also maybe hope or alternative models. I don't know, some new perspectives. But I would say not only these kind of non-humans, but also, for example, what Ida mentioned is the youth. What do you think about, because they will be the ones who will live with this tourism that we develop. What do they think about this? I was involved in one research project, this kind of big one, Arctic hubs, and there we had this youth forum with youth from different Arctic regions. And I only just remember that the youth from Inari, for example, from northern Finland, they were mentioning that they are a little bit worried about this kind of exclusive tourism development, that if in future it's only going to be like elite people in their home area, how does that relate with their future everyday life? So thinking about these different voices that we should involve in the innovation. And I was thinking the youth also, this was just what, maybe this was the next question about this, how visiting something has changed. I was happy to hear that there was Ida from Camp Ribbon, because this is something where I've been visiting with my family since the kids were really small, and just was it last summer or the year before, we were there with my family and with kind of thinking about the youth having these experiences where these kind of the spirit of a place comes forward. I really enjoyed having this experience with my teenage son and going there to the spa, and there were these I think it had changed since the last time that we were there, that you could do kind of engage more with this sauna culture and spa culture and learn about how to use, for example, things from birds and other things, and having this experience. I think it was really this kind of generations and traditions and being together with your family and doing things that you, I hadn't thought about going to having this spa experience with my teenage or pre-teenage son, and I was really proud of him, how he tested everything that there was available to test.
Exactly, and how when we are talking about the soul of the place, and we connect the storytelling, and then we connect the understanding about the creating the experiences where we understand every single detail that we can create the whole, and the whole experience. You can create something very unique and something very interesting. If we take the look for the future, what do you think? What does it mean? The back to the roots, or soul of the place, and you put the classes, and you will see that the next 10, 20, 30 years, I don't know which kind of classes you have, but what is what we should remember, what we should take with us when we go to the future? What we can do now that the future could be more sustainable in many ways, that the future could be with strong connection with the soul of place. How we should continue from here to the future? I know this is very, very big and hard questions, but what kind of thoughts you have? You are avoiding to start. I want to start from Outi, because you are a researcher, and you are having. I would say that you have more or less the general and a little bigger picture about the industry and the regional and the Arctic context viewpoint. So what do you think about the
Ida
future?
actually already opened her microphone, so
Oh,
You can
yeah,
start also from
I
Ida.
can start that. Yeah, that's fine. I think, for me, it's a lot about what I talked about already, and it's finding your why. So why are you doing this? Well, and what is it that you want to showcase? So like, and not forget that. So when we look at developing things in the future, is it all about building 100 new cabins or new airports? Like, how is that going to look in 50 years? So think about it from the long-term perspective. And when you go back to your why, it's going back to the roots why you're doing it. So I think that's the most important question we all have to ask ourselves. It's why we are in this business in the first place, and not because I think it's easy to forget, because things are moving so fast at the moment, and we find that there's a peak, people want to travel here, but we have to also think about the long-term consequences of that. And I think that goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. What would the place say about you? So I think that's what we have to think about for the future as well.
Exactly. How about Anja?
I can continue, and I would say that a lot of our kind of heritage is something that we have to just remind our next generations about. We have to teach them about our heritage, our culture, our traditions. And I think it's also important that we kind of figure out locally what do we want to present to travelers coming to our regions. What do we want to keep to ourselves? Examples from that is like with Sami handicraft, with Voitje. Not everything is something that we want to teach our guests. Something we want to keep to ourselves. So some of the patterns, some of the ways of doing things, we keep to ourselves. But some handicrafts we are able to kind of teach someone else. And I think that is something that we have to also be mindful of, is what are we talking about with our travelers and how that would shape our future. With Destination Sápmi, it's also interesting to see, because we always get the question that, because we are only a part of Sápmi, we're only a small part of Sápmi where we are located. And we use the name Destination Sápmi to kind of also to get the interest for us, of course, it's to kind of generate the interest, but it's also to showcase the different variations of Sami culture with the clan culture as well. Because if we would be destination inner Finnmark, that would not resonate with the market. But with having the Sami name in it and our focus being on Sami culture, we are able to use that as an umbrella to also teach travelers about the different Sami cultures, with the Sea Sami, for example, because visit Norway, Norway Tourism Board, visit Lapland, Swedish Lapland as well. We have been marketing the Sami culture years on already, and most of the focus has been on reindeer, Lavo, and the Gakti, and that is something that we see now as also a problem as well, because that is what the guests are expecting. But it's so much more. So I think that in the future, we will have more diverse cultural experience as well, because we can also start marketing and highlighting the different variations of Sami culture, different variation of local culture, and Fan and Tornio Valley, and different cultures we have in our Arctic Europe region, because it will be more highlighted. The guests are more conscious, the guests are more enlightened about our region. So I think we'll have deeper and more broader experiences also in the future.
Thank you, Anja. And then Outi, what do you think?
Very much in line with what Ida and Anja already said, and I was thinking also about this kind of that there's a tendency maybe in tourism that we see local places, the local culture, people, and the surrounding environment as resources for tourism. But I think this, what we've been discussing today, has really shown that it's not that it's a resource that we can and and somehow tourism tends to make it like a common resource that, for example, the Sami culture, that anyone or nature, that anybody can use it for building tourism on that. And maybe this has now, there's kind of also this globalization that, for example, due to sharing economy and these kind of tendencies, that this can be problematic also. So maybe instead of kind of this resource-based thinking, going more and more towards thinking about how do we live, how are we connected to this place, and it's not only a resource, but we are part of it. So what does it mean if we become part of this common resource of so how could we kind of go a little bit away from this resource-based thinking and more thinking about these as kind of places where there's a lot of relations that we have to take into account. So what would the future what would the future tourism look like from people who are living in these places, whoever it is in future? It's not maybe a homogeneous, it's a diverse groups, but what would it look like for those? And maybe if to say one thing, I would say that can tourism developers and entrepreneurs act like a role model for doing ecological stewardship? And I think there's been now really good examples and discussions about that.
I agree. I totally agree. Thank you, Ida, Anja, ja Outi. Very interesting discussion. And now we have a couple of minutes and I open the floor for the couple of questions or thoughts for the audience, if you have some. It has been very interesting discussion and very good angles and points for the whole theme of the soul of place, going back to the roots. If there is no questions, I try to sum it up a little bit. One point, what you either said was the question why. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing it like this? That we need to remember the question why. And then we have been saying many times already what Niklas said, that if your place could talk, what it would say. And then we have talked about the many levels when we are doing the services in the place, in the area where we are working. There's so many levels in our history, in the history of place, in the cultural levels, and we need to understand, we need to want to understand those layers and levels. We need to know what are we doing, and we need to know what are we talking about, how we are talking about what we are doing. And Anja told us your thought about the transparency that and communication, that how it's more and more important in nowadays. And then the idea to not forgetting the heritage, not forgetting the roots, not forgetting the place where you are doing, and then the change of generations. What does it mean when the generations in the tourism industry and also in the travelers is changing? And how we are, when we are doing the thing, how we also teaching and telling them, people and customers, the stories. And the final very good idea and questions about the idea that how we could think the tourism business, a business where we are as a part, not only resource, what Outi told us in the latest. And we could be the role models for the sustainable tourism business for the future. Well, that's my short summary, but I really thank you Ida, Anja, and Outi for your thoughts and discussion. And also, I will thank all the participants that you were listening to us today. Very good. Do you have, Alexia, some final words for the morning?
Don't I always have some? But actually, I just wanted to thank all of you for being here today with us. I want to thank you, Julius, and also Samuel, for planning a very, very good session for us. Also, Ida, Outi, and Anja for being our panelists and sharing the insights with all of us. And of course, Niklas for a really good presentation. But of course, we wouldn't be here without our listeners. So, of course, many thanks to you for carving time out of the very busy winter season planning weeks. So we appreciate you being here and thank you for listening. Some practical information. Yes, the recording will be, of course, on YouTube, and the presentation will be available on Basecamp, as always. And as I was listening to you talking now, I'm not going to go too much into detail in this or at all. But as you all know, I'm not from our area. I'm not from our regions. I'm one of the foreign seasonal staff who overstayed her welcome and stayed here for, well, yeah, many seasons, almost 12 years now. And while I was listening to everything that you were sharing, I was thinking how I wish I knew all this when I first moved here. You learn by doing, you learn by staying, but some of these discussions can be very, very valuable also with the seasonal staff. Sometimes we get lost into the everyday, and a few of you touched upon that. But I would definitely encourage, since the material is available, share it with your colleagues, share it with your staff. And also, if you have the time and the occasion, have these conversations with them, because I think they have this outsider view. But as I think it was Ida who mentioned it, some people come here and they stay for a reason. So they could also be able, through their storytelling and their experiences, to own it in that way. So that is just my encouragement, my own thoughts. And also, just a quick reminder, this was part 1 of our Back to the Roots series, and we have part 2 coming up on January the 26th. And there we will going to focus a little bit more on branding and how can your own brand grow from the roots. So if I'm not forgetting anything, well, I just thank you once again and wish you a lovely day ahead. And well, good luck with winter season.